Hi, so good morning and welcome back to Plannercraft. I'm Natalie and today we're going live a little differently, so you may be watching in the event, you may be watching on one of the pages, or you may be watching one of the groups, or YouTube or Twitch. So, I will hopefully see comments from all of those different places, but if not, do bear with me and I will check on the event chat too. And today we're going to be creating a cross card. So we're going to be using our machine to create a shaped card blank. And if I pull down my notepad a little. So we have our cross card, which is going to join at the top. And you can make that in card like I'm going to do today, so that you can actually see what I'm doing nice and clearly. Or you can make it in acetate. We're going to talk about how we can stabilise shaped cards where we've got this kind of smaller bottom and wider top, and also how we can put them onto a card blank. So hopefully all is okay. Don't be afraid to say hi and let me know that you're watching, and also you can ask any questions at any time, including scan and cut questions, so it doesn't have to be just on what I'm doing today. So let's just check everything is okay on the glass. Okay, looks like it's struggling a little bit today, but we'll see how it goes. So good morning, Thea, and welcome to the class chat. I think we're having a few issues with the internet today, but we will see how it goes. Oh, and that's gone through where it should. So, without too much further ado, so as I said, for this first stage you can use acetate like I have done in this note here, or you can use card if you want to go for more of an opaque finish. So let's get started. So I'm going to start today on the machine and we're going to work with some basic shapes. So first of all, let me wake up the scan and cut and let's go to close cam. There we go. Good morning, Joyce. Hi Mum. Hi Sandra. Keep stopping on Facebook Live by Plannercraft, but no worries. Buffering again. Yeah, so do just rewind slightly if it's playing up. Don't worry if I will allow a little extra time for questions today if it's just going up a little bit slow. But I think it's just the internet, so there's not a lot I can do about it, unfortunately. But we'll see how it goes. If this doesn't work sort of by the end of the stream today, I will change how I do it for tomorrow. Just Facebook has been like, put it as an event, and it's like, I gave in and went, okay, let's see whether it's going to make any difference. Doesn't look like it, to be honest. And morning, Nikki. So hopefully at some point we will get Linda on stream. So let's go to basic shapes, and we're going to go down a page and we're going to go for our thin rectangle. Okay, so we're going to need two of these, so one that's going to be our horizontal, one that's going to be our vertical. So if we go 2 and add those to our mat, like so. Now obviously we need to do a little bit of jiggery pokery with the sizes, because if we were to cross those at the moment, then all you're going to get is a plus sign. So we need to stretch one and then lay it over the top of the other one. Now in both cases I think that it's just a little bit too thick for what I'm thinking. Let's think. So I'm using my, if I come back over top, I'm using my cutting mat to judge my sizes. So I'm thinking if we went sort of 2 by 4 for our cross, then we could go sort of 5 by 2 for the upright. but in my original design I've got it a bit more so it's narrower. So if we left it that 2 inches, we'd end up going an awful lot bigger. Now that's all very well if if you've got big enough card, but today I'm going to be using some A4, so I want to size it so that I can fit both sides of my cross, because they're going to hinge into my card. So you can decide at this point whether you're going to go this way, so you've got your cross like that and it's going to join on an arm, or you're going to put your paper that way and it's going to join at the top. I think I'm going to go for a little bit narrower. So let's go into edit, and we're going to multi-select because I want to edit both of them so that we can, let me go back to close cap. That's okay, Linda, you can watch anywhere it pops up as long as it behaves. And happy birthday, Linda. And Tracy's watching on YouTube, so she's hoping that everybody's well. So with those both selected, we're going to go OK. We're going to go into Object Edit and we're going to group them. So because we want to alter that size, you need to group so that we can edit both at the same time. I'm going to go into my resize and then use our ratio button so that it goes blue, so that I can just alter the height. And I'm just going to take that down just a little bit. Like so. We can go OK and we can ungroup. So now we have our two rectangles now selected. I'm going to tap off so it's going to have just one selected now, and we can click between those as we need to. So I'm going to drag this one down here a little bit, and this one bring it down to the middle, and we're going to use rotate and go OK. We can move this so it's roughly over the top, like so. We can go into resize, ratio, and this time we're going to do just the height. So that's going to make our vertical go taller. So now what we need to do is align those two together. So if we go OK and back to our multi-select and select both. So by using that right hand icon, we're selecting everything on the mat. We can then align and weld. So we're going to go into move, align, and then we want to go center. So that's going to line up these two crosses this way. And at that point we can go OK. Giving me an optical illusion that's slightly off, but good enough. So let's go OK and OK. Let's go to Object Edit, and now we're going to weld those two pieces together. It's going to give you a preview for you to go OK. You can't undo once you go OK. Now because we can't undo once we've welded, before we go any further, you want to save a copy. So you can save that to your machine, to your USB, or send it back to Canvas, whichever you want to do. Personally, I'm just going to save it to my machine, because usually it will be the quickest. There you go. So it's automatically going to give it a number. So in this case, M000060, and we can use that to come back to later. So we can go OK. Now we can go back to Edit, Object Edit, and the little icon of two squares with the little plus symbol, and that's how you can duplicate shapes. So I'm going to put 2 on the mat. Morning, Louise. So go OK, and there's our 2. So this is where you need to decide how you're going to join them. So as I was saying, if you want to go like so, so you have that join in the middle of them, you can do that. Or if you want to have it joined at the top, move that one down, rotate this one twice, and you can go like so. Okay. So whichever way you want to work it. Now, because I'm doing this out card rather than out of the acetate, I think I might just swing it back round so that it has that join in the middle there. Now, what you can do is go OK, OK, back to multi-select, select all, OK, move the line and top. So that's on making sure that our crosses are level. We can go OK, OK again. Now, as long as those 2 crosses are slightly overlapping, you're going to be able to do a weld. And morning, Karen. So, Karen, there are some events up on the Plannercraft page. If you hop on those and say you're going, you'll get a little notification each time we go live. We're going to go into Object Edit and weld those 2 together. So then we have something that looks like that. And we can go OK. There's our 2 crosses joined together. So with those 2 now joined together, we're going to want to cut those out from our card. So I'm going to be using some shimmer card, but if you want to use acetate for this, then what you need to look for is the heat resistant acetate. So it tends to be a little bit thicker and have a bit more body to it, so you don't want it too thick, otherwise you can start to struggle to cut it successfully, but you want it thick enough that it can form a crease and hold it. So let's move these just there for a second, and I'm going to move my mat out of the way. So let's go overhead, and we're going to pull out our cutting mat. Let's give it very quick. Once over. There we go. Just get any extra bits off. So we did quite a bit of cutting at the weekend. So it's always a good idea to just pick up any bits of dust or debris that you might have on your mat, so you're not accidentally taking that back into your machine. And let's pop my card across the top. Now I can load my mat into my machine. Let's just lower that there. There we go. And I'm just going to flick back to the close cam for a moment. So we're going to go OK. OK again. OK again, and let's go to cut. Now this is a very basic design, so you can use just your standard auto blade, you don't have to use your vinyl one. And if you're using acetate, I actually advise that you use your standard blade. So make sure your half cut is off. Pressure is at -9, speed at 2, which is just fine for doing this. And off we pop. Now there does seem to be a few issues with the stream. So it may be tomorrow we just stream to the page rather than the event, but I will pop a notice up saying that in the event as well. If you rewind slightly and then carry on watching, you should find that you have enough of a buffer that it shouldn't keep stopping. Okay, so there is our little cross. So if I zoom so that we go overhead, you can see that that's now cut. Now obviously the one thing that we haven't done is do our score line. So when it comes to scoring that, what I recommend doing is using a scoreboard just to help you. So I'm going to save the offcuts from that card because we may come back and actually do a topper section to go over. But let's grab my metal spatula and we can get underneath like so. So there we go. Next I have some watercolour type card, and because I'm going to be splooshing a little bit of water, I wanted something a little bit more resistant. Let's go back to close cam, and we're going to go OK. We're going to go back. Now if you want to save that card, we can do. So we can go save to the machine, and you want to say new. If you were to press overwrite at that point, what you're actually doing is overwriting that original cross that we put in, which we definitely don't want to do at this stage. If ever you are really concerned that you might go wrong, then you can always save that second save to something like the USB or to Canvas, so that you know you're not overwriting it by accident. We can go OK. Now we're going to reset, so we go back to having nothing on the map. We're going to go retrieve data from the machine down to the bottom, and there's our cross. Okay. Now if we were to cut this out at this moment, what we would get, if I go back overhead, is literally something that covers that panel entirely. But obviously we've done it in some nice shimmery cards, so you want to see at least part of that. So the way that we can do that is actually use an offset. So if we go into edit, object edit, and then we've got our two circles with two lines and two little arrows, and that's your offset button. This is how we can make a shape narrower or bolder. So positive is going to go outside the original shape, negative is going to go inside, which is what we want to do. So we're going to take that down, and you're going to tell it how much of a border you want around that edge. So 4mm is going to take 4mm from this outside edge all the way around, nice and evenly. Yeah. So I'm going to go with that. So now we have two shapes on our map, but they're aligned over the top. Now there will be occasions when you want to keep them like that. Say if you are cutting a frame, for instance, you can use offset to do it that way. So what I'm going to do is actually drag that out, because all I want is that smaller cross. We'll go OK, and we'll go delete and OK, so that we have our cross. We're going to move up to our top corner, go OK, OK again, and again we're going to select cut. So if at this point you wanted to foil the edge, if you wanted to draw a border before you do your cut, you can do that. So if you're using a thicker pen, you can actually create a nice edging effect. Likewise, if you're using the bold tip of the foil quill, you can get a nice foiled edge. And let's just get that going. Take off the waist, you can see that shape a little better. Now, if at this point you were to try it out on your card blank and think, oh, I've taken it in too much, then you can still use offset to take it back out, but you will get little rounded corners. So, like so. Okay. Now I'm going to unload my mat. Bring my mat back in. Get the fabric up. There we go. Okay. So, here's our cross card, and the bit we're going to work on is this panel. Now, if you are working in acetate, all the stamping you are going to do on the front of the cross, and all the colouring you are going to do on the back. So it's a good way of making sure you stay in the lines then. So, in terms of stamps, I've pulled out a few poppy stamps that we could use, some which are a bit more contemporary and some which are more traditional. Because I never know which mood I'm going to be in. You are going to need a waterproof ink pad, whether that's a hybrid ink or a waterproof ink. And let's decide what we're going to go for. So we have a traditional poppy stamp just here, and all these stamps are chocolate baroque, or we have our more contemporary one. So if we get our little card that we want to do, we can start to line them up and go, actually that's probably a little bit too big, certainly for these ones over here. So I'm going to go for that little stamp there. Then flip over, and I'm going to pull out just some little wildflower stamps that we can use for our background. Now I have a water spray to the side, so first of all let's get stamping. And we're going to pop our cross into our stamp platform. Now I'm going to concentrate all my stamping really on this bottom portion, so that we keep this top section nice and clear. So on your acetate, you can just do some little swirls on the front if you haven't got any poppy stamps, and actually then blend the colour behind, and I will show you that as well. So I'm going to start off by popping the magnets on the arms of my cross so it can't go anywhere. I'm going to line up my first stamp. Okay. Now with this one, because I want to push it into the background rather than using that black, I'm going to go a bit softer with some antique linen oxide. So this first stamp isn't about getting a perfect image. So what I will do is I'm just going to get my water spray and I'm just going to spritz my stamp very lightly. So let's see if I can get this on camera a little better for you. So just going to hold your water mixture away a bit and we're just going to give it a couple squirts. And just gently press that down to your surface. So we can actually move it slightly. And let's bring it down this way a little bit. Without re-inking, and we can just press it again. And we're going to get a softer impression. So that's probably enough for that one. So grab your cloth. And because all the inks that we're using are going to be water-based, we can still rub them away while they're still wet. Okay. Next stamp. So this time I'm going to go for the little fronds of wildflower, and I'm going to bring these down a little bit further. And what I'm going to do is grab some cracked pistachio. Now this is a bit bright for what I had in mind, so little less is more. And I haven't even inked that whole image. So the idea is we're just going to get that hint of colour. Just going to tap the excess off, so it's going to knock it back just a little bit. Okay. So again, with that done, get the damp portion of my bamboo, and I'm just going to clean that off. Now because I've misted, I'm just going to give my stamp platform a quick dry so that my stamps stick better. So now I'm going to go to my poppy stamp, and I'm going to start by kind of angling which way I want my poppies to go. And you don't have to get an entire image. So let's start with the squid ink. So these stamps are really detailed. And if you do get any ink around the edge of your stamp, just give it a quick clean so that you don't accidentally transfer that to your card. So over we go. And we've got our first impression. Now I'm just going to quickly blot off my stamp so I don't accidentally get ink where I don't want it. And let's go just in there. Okay. So at this point, if you're working on card and you're not confident painting, you can just use some coloured pencils to colour those in. So on Thursday I'm doing a colouring session. I'm going to be doing lots of different poppy stamps. So if you're looking for a tutorial on different approaches, then that's going to be on that one. So let's pop our stamps back on there for a minute. And let's bring out our cross. So next I'm going to grab a messing mat. So for this step you can use a glass mat, you could use a tile, or any kind of blending mat. Are the comments still working okay? Because it's all gone very quiet. Okay. Until I hear a voice, I will assume that everything is okay. So I'm going to start off with my antique linen and a blending brush. So let's get this one. We're going to start off at the bottom and work our way up so we get kind of an ombre effect. I'm going to concentrate mainly on the areas where the flowers aren't, so you'll see I'll try and keep those as free from ink as possible. I'm not going all out masking because otherwise you'll be there forever trying to cut out those little poppies. But a little ink goes a long way with these. Okay. So now with this top section, all I'm going to do is just literally get the colour to just catch those edges so it's a little bit softer. But I'm not going to add any more ink other than what's already on the mat. So you should have something that looks like that. Now I'm going to jump to the red, so I'm using Candied Apple just because that's the only red shade I have in the oxide. And I thought it would be good to kind of stick to all the same inks. So let's grab some water and let's go for this one. And a little watercolour brush. Doesn't have to be a fancy one. Okay. So it looks like the chat's still working. It must all be being very absorbed and so I'm going to start off at the darkest part of my flower, which in this case is the bowl, just around here. Then you've got a little bit that's going to come up round here. No one's going to come around there. Around here. Bit in there. And this is what helps give a bit of depth to your flowers, so take your time. Like so. And look in there just to bring those petals forward. So now with a damp brush we can go back over And this is why we use watercolour card or null media card, so that it can take the water. So now we want to go up to the edge of our petals. Try and blend in those bits that have the darker colouring too, so you don't get too many harsh lines. And there's our first poppy. So now we can pick up a bit more of the red colour. We're going to do the same again, so around the bowl. Now the second image you're going to see is a little bit paler, just because it had a bit more water on the brush. But that's okay, because this one would be a little bit lighter. I'm going to take it around there, like so. And give the brush a little clean out. Just going to blot a bit of water off now. Okay, so if you want to then add in a little bit more shade in the places that you think need it, you can just come back in with a little bit more. So I think it needs some just there, just to make that read right. But we've got a petal that comes out just there. And like so. A bit in there. And a bit more down around the base here. Okay. And that's white and that. So now I'm going to change green to Rustic Wilderness, which is going to be more like a poppy leaf colour. So hence we've gone with a lighter green in our background because we want that to be pushed back. But then with this green we're going to be going and doing the stem. So remember again, the first bit of colour you do is going to be the darkest, so we're going to want to do our stem first. So I'm going to take that down there. A little bit more just up in this top section that's going to go into our red. So make sure that the two colours actually join at least a little bit. And I'm going to extend this bottom stem off the bottom of the cross like so. Okay. Then we can do the same with this one. So we're going to have it darker by the flower and let it trail off up towards the top. Then let's add a little bit more water now. And we can add just a little into our flower there. So I'm just using my brush, blending out that colour, and then I have a little bamboo cloth that I can just blot that one. And there we have our little poppies. So if I put those up the right way, yeah, he's quite good for a poppy. I tend to do more orangey red poppies. But this time of year it's good for going bold red. Okay. always sounds good, that. Okay. Now just make sure your surface is dry. There's nothing worse than coming to put a card together and getting a watermark on it. And I'm going to grab my scoreboard. And I'm going to use my scoreboard as a guide as to where the middle is. So if you're doing this on acetate, all you need to do to score is just drag the back of your scalpel blade along the metal rule rather than trying to use a scoreboard like this, because otherwise you can find that you get a rounded edge rather than an actual crease. We can fold that up, and like so. Check that you have your two pieces matched up. If not, we can just pull it over just a little bit. So I'm just going to use my bone folder to crease my fold. Like so. Now with your cross you can pop it up so that it's a bit more 3D. So you can do that a couple of ways. You can use foam dots to do that, like I'm going to do it for speed in a minute. Or you can actually cut out multiple copies of the same cross and pop it up that way. So, any questions before I go too much further today? So if you're creating that base card out with acetate, you don't have to use the smaller cross on the front. You can do your design straight onto your acetate. But what you can use that smaller cross for instead is actually creating an insert to go in the back of your card, and then right on the back of that before actually adhering it in. Otherwise it can just look a bit messy from the front. So working with acetate is quite a fun but tricky sometimes material to work with. So I had planned to show you today on acetate as well, but we didn't get a chance last night to do the usual matte pack work that we like to do. Okay. It's always fun trying to get these off. So we have another poppy theme moment tomorrow, and then come Friday we are starting the Christmas course. So all the Christmas courses are going to be under the same event. I'm just going to make life nice and easy. Okay, so there's our cross. Now we just need to put a sentiment on that. So I was thinking about what sentiment I could use for this one, and this one came out of the stash and I thought actually that's pretty perfect. So very quickly I'm just going to give my stamp platform a little white because we don't want to get Distress Oxide onto our cutting mats either. Because they are a bit chalky. Yep, you could turn it into a box if you wanted to. So all you would have to do is just fill in the sides. And I'm going to grab the shimmer card that we had for our card base and pop that into our stamp platform. Now with my stamp, I'm making sure that I've moved it down from this top edge because we actually want to cut around it. And thank you, Linda. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Sandra. Okay. So, I thought as a remembrance card, something that was a little bit inspirational rather than and I would go walk tall. So again, just going to grab a damp cloth, give those a quick clean, and job done. So now I can just show you how we're going to cut that out. So bring my cutting mat back in. We're going to place our card 1 inch in from the top and 1 inch in from the side. So again, we're giving ourselves the opportunity to get to that edge if we need to, but we shouldn't need to just there. So if we bring in our cross, we can see that our width is going to be well in and our height should be well in. You have 2 options as to how you're going to approach cutting out your sentiment. If your sentiment is all joined up, so like if you've got, say, remembrance and it's in a script, what you can do is use direct cut and actually use one of the shaped outside edges to cut that out. Whereas with this, because we've got 2 separate words and they don't join, you're going to want to use background scan and a basic shape. What colour red was it? It is Candied Apple. So the colours I've used are Candied Apple, Rustic Wilderness, Cracked Pistachio and Antique Linen. Okay, take a screenshot. Choose what I do. If I see something I have like, take a screenshot. Right, scan and cut back up. It's gone off to sleep while it was waiting. And let's go back to close cam. I'm going to go OK. And we want to go and reset so we don't have anything on that. I'm going to load my mat. Oop, I smudged that a little, but hey ho. And let's go pattern, basic shape. So we have 2 options. We've got our little lozenge shape here, or we could go for an oval. And I think the lozenge shape is actually going to look a little bit better. So I'm going to add that in its basic size to the mat. And then I'm going to do a background scan. is you're doing a Poppy Fiend JTC swap. Is that the... oh, is it Make It and Mail It? There's a couple of swaps I'm on that I keep meaning to do. I haven't quite got there. So because this is on a pale card and I just want to make it, or that we get round the text properly, just going to make that scan a little darker. So we can move down our shape, and I'm going to pop it so that my text is more or less in the middle. It doesn't matter if it's not absolutely perfect, but it's going to make life a little bit easier. We're going to go to Edit, Object Edit, Resize, and I'm going to keep it in proportion to start with. And if we edit the shorter number, it's actually going to resize a little bit quicker. Okay, so now at this point, once you've got it to more or less where you want it, you can put the ratio button and actually tweak it. So it's going to shrink that down to not quite as tall. I'm going to go OK. OK. Now when we go to move, we're going to use our magnifying glass so that we zoom in a little bit, and we can go up to 400 just by tapping on that magnifying glass. We then have 4 keys in the top right. Okay. 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 So let's cut this one out. If we decide that we don't like it, we can always stamp it and go again. But let's see how it goes. Oh, it's on Craft of Hearts. Cool. We'll go back overhead, but for such a little time. I'm going to go OK. Oh, unload the mic. Okay. So, popping back overhead, there's our little sentiment. You can see it's a little bit smudgy, but it's okay. So we can actually pop that back onto our cross. Now I'm actually going to put that up a little higher, I think. And if you want to, you can actually bring in some of that red around the edge. So if you grab yourself a little sponge, and it doesn't have to be expensive one, this was just a little cheap pack. I can just go around that edge, and it will give you a softer edge than if you just go straight to it with the ink pad. Going around the top bit, I'll go a little bit lighter and just use the dregs of what's left on the sponge. Then you find you decorated your desk. But the good news about oxide is it cleans up pretty easily. Okay, so once more we can actually go and 3D that up. And just make it a little bit quicker, let me grab my scissors and I can just use some of the waste. Okay. So I can go across the back. line it up, and there you go, our little walk tall card. So there's a nice little project for you. So I hope to see some little cards done with a similar effect over the next sort of afternoon or so. And you can always share your work that you do following the streams on the group. So you can actually start your own album if you go to the group and then go into media or photos, depending on which platform you're looking at it on. It'll be one of those two. So thank you, Thea. Thank you, Tracy. I didn't catch Sarah Lou's live yesterday. I was having some IT issues. So it needed upgrading. So that was my day kind of done, along with book writing. Thank you, Linda. So the next book is nearly done. Yay! So hoping that's going to be done by the end of the week, at which point I will celebrate. So that's going to be a project book, and then the next book I've started writing is Scan and Cut book 2. So that looks like it might be another big one. So take care, and I will see you tomorrow at 11. Bye for now. And thank you for watching.